Hi, and welcome to the Olive Green Art Studio. Kidding. Hi, I'm Irene, and this is Inkworks. I hope you're ready for another session of paints, brushes, paper, and even some basic black ink. So the first part of this video is where I create a swatch chart. Then the second part is where I take the colors for a spin and make an actual painting with them. I'll explain more about that when the time comes. Don't mind me just reveling in the gorgeous color palette on display. This is Kuretake's Gansai Tambi Art Nouveau set of watercolors. It's a special set that came out over a year ago. They do have basic colors available in 24, 36, and 48 pan sets, as well as smaller specialty color sets. This Sakura Pigma Micron fine liner was used only for these straight lines. It looks odd right now, I know, but there is method to the madness. I'll talk more about it in a minute. For now, just know that I spent some time figuring out how to actualize the idea in my head. It took quite a bit of head scratching, measuring, trimming, more head scratching, and careful mark placing. Not sure it was worth all of the effort, but in the end, I find it a lot more interesting than the usual square-shaped swatchings, which you could say is analogous to the whole Art Nouveau thing. So, for those who haven't heard that term before, I should maybe try to explain what Art Nouveau is, and boy, feel free to correct me. I am not an expert, and I don't have a degree in this stuff. Let's see. There was a period during the late Victorian era, roughly 1880 to 1910, that the French called La Belle Époque, or the Beautiful Era. One of the popular design movements during that time was named Art Nouveau because it deviated from traditional styles and embraced more organic elements such as flora and fauna and more fluid forms and ornamentation. It became a popular aesthetic in architecture, furniture, jewelry, and illustration. In many ways, it was a style for the affluent, as it required a high level of craftsmanship and costly materials. Although Art Nouveau began in Europe and Britain, it made its way to the U.S. and was embraced by Tiffany & Company, famous purveyors of luxury goods. Their stained glass lamps are iconic of the Art Nouveau movement and are popular home decor items even now. There are also some notable architectural remnants still standing in New York and Chicago. As for illustration, Alphonse Mucha is the most famous artist from that era. His pieces were used for magazines, advertisements, and theater posters. I have a big picture book of Mucha's work because, well, I am a fan. It ties into my interest in the Victorian era. Not that I wear a bustle whilst twirling a parasol, no matter how tempting that is. But I do often hum a Straussian waltz or a Gilbert and Sullivan tune. That stuff kills at parties. Or at least I imagine it would, given the chance. For the swatch chart, I chose a sheet of Fluid 100 hot-pressed watercolor paper. Then, using a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen in black, I drew a branch-like design. That was simply an underlayer intended to show the paint's opacity levels. The actual paint swatches were applied with a number 10 round brush from Princeton's Aqua Elite series. It's synthetic Kolinsky sable. Off to the right there at the edge of frame is a blue shop towel for brush dabbing. I've done paper towels, washcloths, old rags, and even a holey sock. But blue shop towels are my favorite. They're soft and sturdy. Emphasis on sturdy. Seriously, you can even wash and reuse them. It cost me nothing because one day my brother stopped by, waving a couple of rolls and saying, "Can you use these?" Cast-offs and hand-me-downs, just one of the sweet perks of having siblings. So I think we broke a personal record this December by watching The Muppet Christmas Carol 4 times. That might sound excessive, but it's totally possible to lose power during a winter storm, right? Then what are you gonna do? You reenact the Muppet Christmas Carol using candlelight and sock puppets, of course, which wouldn't be possible without learning all of the lines by heart. Just another Inkworks life hack for you. You're welcome. But I'm not always filled with goodwill toward men. Not 24/7 anyway. I don't know if you can tell, but sometimes I'm a grump. And speaking of carols, we were visited by roving carolers one night, just a day or two before Christmas. That had never happened to us before, and it was extremely awkward. And as I stood there on our front stoop wondering, wait, just how many verses does Jingle Bells have anyway? It dawned on me that this was a perfect opportunity to let my inner Scrooge out, yell, "Bah, humbug," and slam the door on their cheery faces. But I tapped down that momentary misanthropy because I realize we live in a society. Plus, they were kids. So as they wound things down, I started thinking, what's the protocol here? Do I tip them or what? Then they handed me a bag of Ghirardelli chocolates. Aww. And bounced off to the next house. Pretty sure they didn't hear me sniffling and mumbling, "I'm not crying, you're crying." Not sure how well you can see the color names, so I'll quickly rattle them off, starting at the top. Saffron yellow, green gold, flax beige, ecru beige, pale pink, coral pink, potter's pink, vermilion, alizarin crimson, mauve taupe, old mauve, grayish blue, cobalt turquoise, pale aqua, cobalt green, billiard green, shadow green, pea green, that's PEA by the way, ivy green, green gray, beige gray, yellow brown, Mars yellow, and Venetian red. I really want to end this with, "and tubular bells." Once this sheet was completed, I taped it to the inside of the box lid. Sure, there was already a printed swatch chart there, but it was so small. I'm 55 and wear glasses. So not only am I beating away suitors, I'm also completely over teeny tiny charts and stuff. And by stuff, I mean the other S word. Speaking of old age, remember when you sometimes dreamed about pulling bits of tooth from your mouth? You know, like those nightmare scenes from horror movies. Well, it turns out that was merely foreshadowing. Because after a certain point, stuff like that is like just another Thursday. But a few missing teeth doesn't stop this gal from enjoying her food. So, thanks to generous family members, producer Mike and I were able to have our New Year's Eve dinner at a local Mexican restaurant. For any foodies watching, a link to their Yelp page is in the description. I can't be the only one who flips through photos of restaurants I'll never get to. That's a thing, right? So our party all agreed our meals were delicious. My pollo a la crema was triple yum, so much so that I didn't offer a bite to anyone else, and I'm usually sherry. We also all agreed that our server forgot about us several times. Look, it wasn't a big deal. The food was good and we had a nice time. We just had to wait for some things and ended up staying longer than expected. We were just happy to eat out on New Year's Eve. Because we are not party people, especially at this late stage. Producer Mike and I just want to enjoy our meal, get back home, turn on Netflix, and count our remaining teeth. Preferably before 10 p.m. After so much excitement, we need our wind-down time. Now, I had done a drawing some months ago in anticipation of eventually acquiring these paints. It was inspired by an Alphonse Mucha painting. But when the moment came to paint the piece, I did not feel up to recreating my drawing on watercolor paper. So what we have here is a simplified version. This is Fluid 100 again, but it's the cold press version. Their cold press texture is quite mild, though. For the painting portion, I chose to limit the palette by using only 4 colors. And as a nod to the winter season, I stuck with the cooler shades: mauve taupe, old mauve, grayish blue, and cobalt turquoise. As a tenuous tie-in to Art Nouveau and its origins in Europe, I'll tell you about our recent European meal. For Christmas, we'd received some gift cards for local restaurants. So last week, producer Mike and I enjoyed dinner at Bruno's restaurant in Tacoma. It's a neat place that specializes in German and Polish dishes. Everything was yummy. We shared a bowl of their pickle soup, which contained potato, carrot, sauerkraut, and dill pickle, making for a highly mouth-puckering experience. The fricadella was frickin' delish, and the Rahm schnitzel was chef's kiss. The atmosphere was comfy and homey, and our server took excellent care of us. There's a link to their Yelp page in the description. You know, just in case you're in the mood to gaze upon some Central European yumminess. Sure, it might be a hop, skip, and a jump for many of you, but who knows? Maybe you're like me, and one of your hobbies is creating Google Docs for potential foodie road trips, complete with lodging options and seasonal wardrobe considerations. What? A gal can dream? Speaking of dreams, I've previously mentioned how I'm a bit of an armchair traveler, so I was thrilled to receive a brochure in my mailbox today, all about Viking river cruises. That'll fuel my travel fantasies for a while. Sailing through Europe, tasting regional dishes, visiting crumbling castles, all at a leisurely stroll while absorbing history through earbuds. The brochure uses phrases like, visit renowned museums and notable landmarks. We offer privileged access experiences, and our Viking longships are designed to enhance your journey. Sounds exciting, right? However, I've watched quite a few cruise vloggers, and the reality seems a little more mundane. Most likely, you begin your excursion with a coach ride into town, a walk through public gardens, a group tour of a cathedral, then an hour of free time for souvenir shopping before regrouping and heading back to the boat. Hey, it's as close as you can get to an old-time Viking adventure. How about upping the game, Viking? Maybe you should offer incursions. That would spice up those pamphlets. Join in morning intimidation exercises. We provide top-grade battle gear, guaranteed minimum 2 hours marauding time, and best of all, unlimited ale included at nightly feasting and boasting gatherings. Last month, a local radio station held a contest with the prize being a Viking river cruise. I didn't win. But 3 times a day, every day for 2 weeks, I listened and entered in the hopes of winning. All right, no, I mostly forgot and ended up with only a handful of entries. It's hard to drop everything and get to a device at a specific time to catch a secret word that's said only once. Man, there has got to be an easier way to win a free vacation. The Fluid 100 cold press watercolor paper performed really well. No complaints. The Aqua Elite brush was great. Again, no complaints. But what did I think of the paints? For this first painting, using just a handful of colors from the set, I'm delighted with them. And I want to point out that I did some mixing on the ceramic palette, and although I didn't have a lot of confidence in the mixability, these colors at least worked well together to create these lovely shades. You know, I wanted this Kuretake Art Nouveau set because it's a gorgeous palette, but I was slightly concerned over whether or not the paints would work well in actual practice, on paper with the techniques and styles I use. For this session, specifically, I wanted to see if I could get some nice transparency for layering. So, yeah, there was a little bit of worry, but I was pleasantly surprised with the results here. Many of the strokes look soft and delicate. In my opinion, the piece probably would have looked better without the ink work. Which is saying something, because I'm usually all in with ink work. Just look at this channel's name. Thanks for watching and for sticking around till the end. That tells me you liked what you saw and heard. Or you fell asleep before you could switch to something else. I'll take what I can get. So happy to share this watercolor project with you. Until next time, stay artsy, my friends.